Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Ball Watching. Just Justin here today. Jake is out on paternity leave. Mother Mags and their child, I will let Jake do the full announcement when he feels ready to do so. They're both healthy, happy, and everybody's doing well. So huge congrats to Jake. You're stuck with me for this one. So it will be a quick one. Obviously, we're not going to be having a recap and a preview like we've had for the majority of the season. Just a preview into Nashville. But prior to going into that, going to do a quick, what are you watching? An injury report, which is probably my favorite part about this entire thing, this episode, with how short that is. A quick touch on City 2, who has been absolutely on fire. If you haven't been checking in and on them, you need to get to in a game, and we'll talk about that here in a second as well. And then we'll hop into the Nashville preview, which is going to be a tough one for the boys, but hopefully feeling fully rested after some time off. And yes, obviously we had the game against Aston Villa a little over a week ago as of recording today on Thursday. But then again, the majority of the guys are just looking at 45 minutes tops there. So should be fully rested. But before we hop into all of that, I want to talk about what am I watching. And honestly, currently, I've been tuning into a lot of the Leagues Cup. And so for anybody that hasn't, I'm going to give you a quick update on what's going on, because I just had to do a little bit of research on this as well, because I didn't really fully understand. They kept talking about this being phase one standings of the Leagues Cup. So for anybody that cannot see this visually, I'll do a quick rundown. They basically broke it up. Even though Liga MX is in this and the MLS, they're playing each other. But they ultimately had a bracket of how the teams are doing in their own schedules. So there's a Liga MX side where top four teams make it through, and then there's an MLS side where the top four teams make it through. And it really comes down to tonight for a couple games. So on the Liga MX side, there's three teams that have already clinched. I'm going to butcher these names: Toluca, Pachuca, and Tigres. And then the two teams in the MLS that have already clinched are Seattle and Miami. There are two other spots up for grabs in the MLS then, and one on the Liga MX side. So these games are tonight at time of recording. I'm recording this just before it will be dropped for you guys later tonight. So all of these games on Thursday night, August 7th, tune in. And here's what you need to be watching for. So Orlando is currently in third and Portland in fourth. However, they have 7 points for each of them right now, and they've already played all three of their games. So they're sitting ducks. So the games you need to watch for tonight is Cincinnati, who still has a chance. They're playing at 6 p.m. Central, and they're playing Chivas, and they need to win by 5 for the tiebreaker to be able to sneak in over Portland and lock in a spot with that goal differential of +6. Because right now they currently have 4 points, and then they'd be tied on their points with 7. So the goal differential would be the first tiebreaker there. So it's a possibility there to win by 5 against Chivas, because Chivas is already eliminated. So who knows what they're going to be throwing out on the field. And then right after that, actually going to almost be in parallel with that, is New York Red Bulls at 6:30 p.m. tonight. They also need to win by 5. That is much less likely, considering Juarez is in the 5th spot on the Liga MX side. And with a win, they would automatically qualify and move on to, I guess, what would be called phase 2. So not looking likely there for the Red Bulls, but there's a slight chance. And then lastly, the LA Galaxy play at 10:35 p.m. Central against Santos Laguna. And they're already eliminated as well. And the LA Galaxy, as of right now, only need to win by 3. So that could change depending on what Cincinnati does earlier in the night. But at that point, the LA Galaxy will know what they need to do there. And so one thing that you guys need to tune into on here as well is these games have been extremely exciting, a ton of goals. And then obviously as they tie after 90 minutes, there's no extra time. It goes straight into PK. So a lot of these games, I've seen goals in the last couple minutes of regulation and into the stoppage time. So tune into those tonight. You have Cincy at 6 p.m., Red Bulls at 6:30 p.m., and the LA Galaxy at 10:30 p.m. I believe there's 2 other games, but those are against teams that have already been eliminated on both sides. So there's not really a point in watching those. So that's a quick update on Leagues Cup. Now, I'm going to hop into the ball watching STL injury report brought to you by Schmidtken's Injury Law Firm. Unlike the boys in red, an injury off the pitch shouldn't have been your life. The Schmidtken's Injury Law Firm fights to obtain fair compensation for people who have been injured in car wrecks, trip and fall cases, on the job. If you or someone you know has been injured, give Rob a call at 314-222-4223 to discuss your case. Mention us, Ball Watching, for a free consultation. You won't pay anything unless Rob wins your case. Give Rob a call, like I said, at 314-222-4223, or check him out at www.hurtonstl.com. Disclaimer: a choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely on advertisements from Justin. But the reason that I mentioned this is one of my favorite segments, not only because Rob's an awesome guy, you can see him being at the games, and he'll be there likely again on this Saturday, but we only have one guy on the report as of right now, knock on wood, middle of the week as well. But Bensel is the only one that is out with a hamstring right now, and he has not been in training. And the reason that we have no one else on there is because Nilsson, we have the contract buyout. You saw we had a couple posts about that earlier this week. And then Kessler was back in training with no restrictions. So all of the other guys, knock on wood, like I said, are healthy, training, and should be available for Saturday's match, which is something we just have not seen all season. And unfortunately, not really the time that you want this to happen because it's pretty late in the season and it's looking a little gloomy. We'll talk about here more specifically on that when we get into the Nashville preview. But, it's just good to see the guys healthy regardless of what situation we're in the standings, because it's just going to build that connectivity, that chemistry that hopefully we can build upon next year. So one thing that is also a positive in the City front is City 2. They are the current Supporter Shield leaders and extended their unbeaten streak to 11 games after a 4-2 win against the Vancouver Whitecaps 2 last night. So they have 14 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws across their 20 matches so far this season, which has been absolutely insane. And it's not like they're just doing it with 1 or 2 guys. They have 11 different goal scorers this season and 5 guys with at least 5 goals. That's extremely impressive. I don't care what level of soccer you're talking about. It just shows how balanced they are and how well Hack is growing this team and working with them. Some call outs I do want to make is Mackay Joyner. He leads the boys in goal contributions with 15. So he has 12 goals and 3 assists. And that's 1 every 64 minutes that he plays for City 2, which is absolutely absurd. That's messy numbers that we're talking about right there in the City 2. And then other 2 guys that are having strong seasons and more balanced on the goals and assist side is McSorley and Heiskalainen. So McSorley has 7 goals and 6 assists, while Heiskalainen has 6 goals and 5 assists. So a great job by that 3-headed monster up top, but just an incredible job across the team. And so let's also keep this in mind that this is throughout the entire season while these guys have been going up and down with the injury-ridden first team. You look at McSorley, Heiskalainen, Joyner, Orozco, Tyson Pierce, all of these guys that have been going up and down. This is not something easy that you can do where you just pull out some of your best players middle of the week and then have to figure out how to compete on the weekend without some of your key guys. So extremely impressive by the rest of the guys keeping that together as well. If you haven't been to or at least tuned into a game, either on TV or physically at Energizer Park, now's the time to hop on the bandwagon. There is no shame in that. Go support the boys, and you can do it just as soon as this Sunday at Energizer Park against the Colorado Rapids 2, who are currently 3rd in the West. This would be a great matchup for the boys. 6 p.m. kickoff on Sunday at Energizer Park. Call Lexi Rogers and ask for the hookup. Say Ball Watching sent you. See what you can do for tickets for you. So get out there on Sunday night. And if you're not going to get there, just perfect little way to end the weekend and watch the boys in red for City 2. So now that we've covered what we're watching with the Leagues Cup, a little bit of injury news and City 2, I'm going to get into the first team in Nashville. So quick recap, because it's been a bit. Where are we at in the season with City? 18 points through 24 games played. Not something I ever want to repeat again. I want to remind everybody as well, though, that with the wild card last year, you only had to have 47 points. So we do have 10 games left. And if you win all of those 10 games, 18 plus 30 is 48. So you probably have a couple people going ahead and saying,
so you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
No, I'm not telling you that. This season's over. But doesn't mean that you can't go out there and support the boys and especially watch them through the end of the season, because I think this is going to be a lot of guys fighting for contracts and starting positions next season and everything of that nature. So it's still going to be an exciting end for us. And unfortunately, we're not going to make the playoffs, unlike how we kind of expected, especially after had a tough end of last season. But this is one that we're still going to hold together. You'll see us every week doing the podcast, and I'm still enjoying this with the guys. So what do you need to look forward to into this Nashville match? Quick preview. We've only played them once in our history. It was in 2023, and we had a 3-1 loss at Nashville. Mukhtar had a hat trick. It was a close game, but Hebert saw red with 25 minutes left in the game, and then we conceded twice. So an unfortunate ending there. We did not play them last year, and we have not played them yet this year. So what have they been doing this year without playing us? Their current standings, they're 3rd in the East, which is also actually just 3rd in the Supporter Shield with 47 points. So as I mentioned earlier, even if they lost the remainder of their games, they would just straight up be in the playoffs more likely than not, and just making the wild card. So I believe they still have 9 games left. Very, very unlikely they would lose out. They're probably going to have a chance at winning the Supporter Shield. So very strong team. They're 42 goals for and 26 goals against. The 42 goals for is, I think, top 6 in the MLS, and their 26 goals against is second best in the MLS behind Philadelphia. And they have a plus 13 goal differential. Not only are they second best in goals against behind Philly, but also their goal differential plus 13 is second best behind Philly as well, who has a goal differential plus 19. So a very strong team up there in Philly as well. But ultimately, the other part that I want to mention on this is who is their coach and what their formation is. Brian Callahan, he assumed the role in the middle of 2024 after Gary Smith was relieved of his duties. He is still their head coach right now, and someone that everybody really appreciated when he was helping out the U.S. men's national team during that time. And it's been a very strong play for him, and definitely looking to have a contract extension there for him. What formation do they typically roll out? They typically roll out a 4-4-2, which can actually move into a 4-2-4 when they're getting forward, which explains why they have so many goals and also why they have the most offsides in the MLS with 60. And so one thing that I did want to cover that I skipped over are what are some of the key matches that they've played. They just recently lost to San Diego 1-0 last week. That was at San Diego, so a tough one for them. Before that, they beat Columbus at home 3-0, which is a strong one. Tough for Patrick Schulte there. They lost at Miami 2-1. Otherwise, they had a draw again against Columbus earlier in the season, a draw again against Atlanta, and then they had a 7-2 drubbing of Chicago. That was back in April. And then right before that, where they had a little topsy-turviness, they had a 3-0 loss at Seattle. So this is a team that can definitely allow some goals, and they're starting to figure it out a little bit more into the end of the season, but definitely a team that is competitive enough to stay in the Supporters' Shield standings, but definitely has some weaknesses. So where are some of their strengths, though, before we go into their weaknesses? And then we're going to need to pick those out to figure out what City can do against what you would call somewhat of a juggernaut in this team. Jake usually goes into a lot of their XG, post-shot XG, some of the acronyms that I can't even understand. I just went straight with facts and did a couple percentages. So here's what I got. They only have 28 assists on their 42 goals, which I thought seemed relatively low. But then when I went and looked into this and compared it to the rest of the season, that's middle of the pack. That's 66% of the time they are assisting on one of their goals. And then I was like, well, if they're middle of the pack, who's at the bottom? That's us. And it's not us just because we only have 24 goals. It's because we only have 13 assists on our 24 goals, which is the third worst percentage in the MLS at 54%. I will say, of their 42 goals, 7 of them have came from PKs. They have had 10 total PKs this season taken. That is the highest in MLS, and the 7 goals is also the highest MLS. So that is one to somewhat keep an eye on. It's not always luck that you get there. I would say it's a little bit more of craftiness and lack of footwork from the defenders, which is something that we have seen, unfortunately, on our end quite a bit. So we need to keep that a little bit more tidy going into this one, because also, as you guys have seen, Roman Berkey isn't the best at PKs. So we definitely need to keep them off the spot in this one. Here are some other facts that I thought was pretty interesting when looking into this. They have the second most clean sheets. Nashville does with 9. They have the third most shots on target in the MLS and third best accurate shooting percentage, meaning 42% of the shots they take actually end up on target. If you think about that from a City perspective, I believe we're below 35% when I was looking at this. It's more on, if I would say on average, what do you see in the MLS? About 15 shots a game. That means that they're getting just about 7 of those on target, as opposed to us, we're getting 4 or 5. And so, yes, that seems small, but when you multiply that over 34 games, that's going to increase your XG, which they actually had the 4th most XG in the MLS with 49.86. So of their 42 goals, they're underperforming that, which I would say is relatively common in MLS. And then they also have the 5th most corners in the MLS, which makes sense. Whenever they get the ball and they try to do counterattacks, they move into that 4-2-4 and trying to get guys in behind. That's typically when they try to whip a cross in and get the corner kick there. And then also to wrap things up, they have the 5th least shots allowed in the MLS. So this is a relatively sturdy defense, as we mentioned, with them having the 2nd least goals against and the 2nd most points differential, right behind Philly in both of those. But they can get forward just as well as most of them can, and honestly better than most, I would say, outside of Miami and teams like Vancouver that have been absolutely exploding this season. They have a couple key guys that we'll get a second to touch on, but some of the keys that I think that we need to focus on when we're talking about these stats and what we can do to try to help defend this and also get forward is, I would say, we need to be smart on the ball. And there's 2 aspects to that. When I say smart on the ball is, 1, when you are making a pass, who are you giving that to? What position are they in on the field? Not talking defense, midfield, or forward, but seriously, where are they located on the field? Is it a correct pass? And are you putting them in absolute danger? I think that's where we've seen a couple of goals this season where we try to jam a pass into a guy that's 10 yards away, and it's a quick pickoff and a counterattack the other way. That's exactly what Nashville looks to do, is once they have the ball, they immediately are head down, getting forward, trying to slip guys in. That's why they lead the MLS in offsides. And so I would say, one, when we're on the ball, we need to be smart with that. There's no point in trying to give Leuven or Hartel a pass that's either square or right into them with somebody on their back, because if they take a poor touch or the pass is slightly off, it's a counterattack down our throat. And the other part of it being smart on the ball is rest defense, because when this turnover does happen, I'm not saying that we'll never be able to not have a turnover. So when it does happen, where are we defensively? That's where we have to really have strong communication with, I believe, Will Fall, him, and likely Baumgartel being our center backs, being able to direct the center defensive mids and the wing backs, and also Berkey behind them, directing these guys. Because if we know that Nashville is a strong counterattacking team, we need to make sure that we have just as strong rest defense to give us a chance. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of 1v1s with Berkey having to stand on his head to try to keep us in this one. And then lastly, do not ball watch. This is not something that I'm trying to plug for the podcast, but I will do a quick plug. If you haven't already, if you like what you see, you like what you hear, you should like it a lot more when Jake's here, and it's not just me rambling the entire time. But please like, subscribe, leave us a rating, send us a DM, what you like, what you don't like. We like when you guys reach out, so please reach out and share everything that you can with us. We are happy to take into any considerations or any wants and needs, questions, stats you guys want us to pull, so please reach out. But back into the preview, do not ball watch. The reason that I say this is, again, on the counterattacking side, as these guys are looking to get slipped in and they're typically off sides, it's because the defenders are losing track of them. And I think that we do a very poor job of that, especially when we get closer to the box. For whatever reason, our entire back line falls directly to the 6-yard line, and then we leave the attacker up and wide open around the PK spot. We need to be not ball watching and just looking at the guy that's out wide, looking to send the cross in, or looking at the guy that's dribbling at us as the runner's running behind. We need to be tugging on shirts, knowing where guys are. So I think those are the two keys to this game, because it's going to be very hard to stop this offense, but we got to do what we can ahead of time before they can even get on the ball. So who are they looking to get on the ball and ultimately win this game for them? Number one, the guy that you're going to see in here, probably a name a lot, it's going to be extremely hard to keep him off the scoreboard, is Sam Sturridge. Number 9, the striker for them. He's an English DP. He has 18 goals and 4 assists. His 18 goals is tied for the league lead with Messi. He also leads the league in XG with 18.65. That is almost a spot-on XG for goals. And so that means that he is doing exactly when he is expected to score the goal, he is putting it away. One of my favorite stats when I was looking into this, Messi's XG is 11.58. That means Messi has scored 6 goals more than expected this season, and that's why he's the all-time GOAT. The other guy that we need to be aware of is Hani Mukhtar, number 10, the midfielder for them. He's a German DP. He's been with them for a while. Obviously, I mentioned him earlier in the episode when we let up a hat trick for him in 2023. He has 11 goals and 8 assists already for them this season. Leads the MLS in shots on target, and he's 4th in XG with 14.61. So he's still doing relatively well from a finishing perspective. Obviously, when they're getting 42% of their shots on target, he is a main factor in that, along with Sturridge. And then the last one that I thought was really interesting on this was Andy Nahar. He's a 31-year-old right back winger for them. This is a guy that I had never heard of before. And when I was doing my digging, it's just an incredible story from him. He has 51 caps and 5 goals for the Honduras national team. He only has 1 goal this season, which makes sense as a right back, but he has 10 assists. 10 assists as a right back for Nashville, which is 5th best in the MLS. Yes, that's including Suarez, Messi, all of these guys that are up top. And we're getting this out of a right back. So where is this guy coming from? And ultimately, he's an absolute journeyman. So he started his career back in 2011. He was the rookie of the year for DC United, where he had 5 goals as a rookie. Then he transferred to the Belgian side, RSC Anderlecht, in 2013, where he hit a market value high of $6 million in 2016. So he was doing well overseas. Then he ended up coming back to the MLS after he had a little bit of a fall off, and he went to LAFC in 2020. Then he was re-signed by DC in 2021, and then he went back to Honduras, where he played for CD Olympia last season before coming back to Nashville this season. So the guy has literally done a full circle, not only in soccer, but around the world, and now he has really found his spot here, being able to feed his assists into Hani Mukhtar and Sam Sturridge. So what did I say earlier? They have a total of I believe it was 28 assists. And one guy has 10 of them, and he's not even on the offensive line. He's on the defensive line. So he's going to be one that we're definitely going to have to track. And if we have a Celio at the left side for us, and this guy will be at the right back, we're going to have to think about who is playing that typical Celio spot on the left and who's going to be our left back, because this guy's going to be getting up and down the field. So that's where a spot where you can typically think about a Jay Reed if you thought about that earlier in the season. And we'll talk about it a little bit more in the starting 11, but I don't think he's going to be the one to fit there, but it's going to be someone that we definitely need to keep an eye on as they move the ball out of the back. So as we're talking about that, and I kind of alluded to it already, Hoffman Brothers. Hoffman Brothers is a presenting sponsor for this podcast, and they have been doing an incredible job for us in around the St. Louis area. We've talked about them time and time again, whether it's either helping that or obviously when we did the episode with the dogs and helping out with the Humane Society. These guys are white glove service. Jake has had them out to their house. Now that I have moved into a house that is owned, I will also be having them out at my house and have more personal stories. But if you have anything that you need under the roof and you need help with, please call the Hoffman Brothers at 314-664-3011 or visit them at hoffmanbros.com. That's HOFFMANN bros.com. These guys will take care of you, and they will do it very quickly, and you can get that home protection plan to get it even quicker. But this is a perfect time for us to lead into the Hoffman Brothers predicted starting 11. Yeah, we are absolutely flying through this episode. But that's what happens when I don't have Jake to slow me down. So, in a positive way, Jake, when you're listening, Hoffman Brothers starting 11. The one thing that I would say here as a quick caveat, yes, we only have Wenzel out as an injury. However, we also have Vollum out with a yellow card accumulation there. So he will not be the one that is ultimately possibly marking Andy Nahar as he's getting forward at a right back. We're going to have to look elsewhere at a left back position. So obviously going back to Berkey between the sticks, I don't even want to talk about that story that we had to post of him having meetings in LA. In my quick opinion, we had a couple people reach out to us and DM us like, what are your thoughts on this? I think it was just a little warning shot to the ownership group and saying, hey, just FYI, I can look around because this is my last season with you guys. I might as well see what's out there. And I think it's him posting that on the story. Probably not great for a locker room perspective, but you know what? He's got to get his, and he's done an incredible job for us. So still going to be the sticks for us for at least the next 10 games and hopefully further on there. But at left back, I'm just going to go to Orozco. I think this is a guy that if we're looking to solely focus on the defensive side when looking at Andy Nahar getting forward, I think this is a guy that we can say, hey, stay home and focus on defending this guy one-on-one because we're going to need it. If we can try to keep him off the scoreboard with an assist, I think that's going to be a huge help for us. And then you just got to keep Hani Mukhtar and Sam Sturridge in your pocket, which, yeah, sounds a lot easier said than done. But you got to pick them off one by one. So I'm going Orozco at left back. I'm going to go Baumgartel and Falou Fall as center backs. A nice big pairing there for us. Just the only concern there for me is communication with Falou Fall getting his first full 90, hopefully, with the squad, just making sure that he truly understands how we are playing and being able to connect with Baumgartel, Totland, Orozco, Berkey, and then in front of him as well with the center defensive mids. As my right back, I'm going back to Thomas Totland. I think he's had an incredible job for us, and I still think that that position is his job to lose. That's a guy that I would like to see just get more consistent minutes getting forward. I think he does well defensively. I think he is our version of a Andy Nahar, obviously nowhere near as many assists, but I think he can be just as dangerous moving forward. So in front of that back four, I'm going with an Ostrak and Leuven. Obviously, we're also going to be missing Durkin with this game with the red card. So I think Ostrak has been filling in a great role there. I would like to see a little bit more defensive mindedness from him and definitely a little bit more on his rest defense because I feel like when he is either on the ball, he's very shifty, but when he's off it, we're letting guys slip in behind him, which then leads our back four to be one-on-one with an attacker as they're also still trying to defend runners. So maybe if he can hold a little bit more, give Leuven the freedom to roam more and be able to play those balls. But I'm going with Ostrak and Leuven in front of the back four. And then up in front of them, I'm going with the Celio Hartel, Sangbin, and Klaus. So I think from this perspective, this is our best offensive four that we can throw on the field, and it's going to be one that we're going to need to score goals in this game because God knows it's going to be extremely difficult to keep this high-powered attack in Nashville off the board. So that's what I would say going up on the top four as well. So full starting 11, we have Berkey, Orozco, Baumgartel, Fall, Totland, Ostrak and Leuven, Celio, Hartel, Sangbin, and Klaus. And ultimately then, what is my goal for the game? My goal for the game is just for us to score 2 goals. I'm just going to make it flat and simple because, one, I don't think that we're only going to keep them on to 1 goal in this game. I think they're going to be scoring at least 2 goals. So if you want to get at least a point out of this one, you got to score 2 goals. And then also, regardless, points or not, I think this is one that the fans are clamoring for some offensive firepower out of this team. I think we're finally looking healthy, and it would just be exciting. And so I'd really appreciate if we can get on the board twice in this one. I would actually really love if we could be the first one to score because it's already been a long week and a half off without a true MLS game. And I think that the fans are going to be absolutely ready and fired up. So if we can get one on early, maybe we can surprise these guys. Maybe we can get the first 2 and try to get them a little bit outside of their bubble, not being used to being down, and then see what can go from there. So what is my prediction for this game? I'm not even going to predict an L because what's the point in that? That's not fun. So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. I would like for us to get our 2 goals. I would think that we could hold them down to 2. I would like to see Baumgartel and Fall just be absolute menaces and try to lock down Surich, make them hit some shots from deep. I feel confident with Berkey between the sticks for anything that's outside of the 18-yard box. Keep everything in front of you. Do not ball watch, and just hopefully try to bring this all together and see if we can just get a point out of this. We're not going to win out. We're not making the playoffs. So let's make a fight. Let's make it exciting for the fans. And I'm hoping to see everybody there at City Park. So one last plug for us is if you haven't already, download Underdog. I had to move my head out of the way. If you download it and you sign up using code BALLWATCHING, you can make your first deposit and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Yes, this is available for people in Missouri. You might as well do it now because it's awesome. And this is the time period to go for it. And if you're going down to the game, do not forget to stop into the pitch. Grab a frozen Irish coffee. That weather's heating back up again. Get a cold one, get some food, and enjoy the Saturday night down at City Park. And I appreciate you all sticking with me. You can probably, sometimes when you listen to podcasts, you try to play it at 1.5 speed. You probably need to play this one at half speed with how fast I just talked. But thank you for sticking with me, and we will talk to you all